Okay, let's talk about transformations here. First thing you need to be paying attention to is when you have a transformation, where is the change happening at? And notice on 1, 3, 5, and let's see if I can move this around, 7, that the transformations are happening inside the equation. Anything that happens inside the equation is going to affect the x values. So let's make a note of that. X values, x values, x values, x values. Now, depending on what happens with the x values, it works like this. Anytime you add or subtract, that's going to be a shift. Now, notice on 1, we have a shift on the inside, so it's going to affect the x's. So let's talk about what happens. Then, if we have x plus a, then shift left whatever unit a is. If it's x minus a, then we're going to go right a units. Now, if the addition is happening on the outside, if it's f of x plus a, where the a is being added to the outside, then we're going to go up a units. If it's f of x minus a, then we're going to go down a units. Now 3 and 4, these are going to be your stretches and shrinks. And here's what's going to happen with this. If the change is happening on the inside, then this will be considered a horizontal shrink of 1 divided by a if a is greater than 1. So this would be f of 2x, f of 5x, something like that. If a falls between 0 and 1, it'll be a horizontal stretch of 1 over a. So if it was f of 1/2 x, then this would be a horizontal stretch of 2. Now when the vertical stretch, if the multiplication is happening outside the main equation, and if a is greater than 1, it'll be a vertical stretch of a. If the vertical change or the multiplication is happening outside, and it falls between 0 and 1, it'll become a vertical shrink of a. So remember, anything on the outside, you pretty much do exactly what it says. One we're really going to focus in on is the vertical stretch. You're not going to see a whole lot of horizontal shrinks, so don't worry so much about this one. But the really one you want to focus in on is number 4, with the vertical stretch or shrink. Now, when you have a negative applied to your equation, two things can happen. And once again, depends on where it's at. If the change is on the inside, where the negative is located, then your x values are going to change. Well, negatives are always going to be a reflection. So, if you're going to change the x's and you're going to reflect, the only way you can do that is by reflecting across the y-axis. When the negative's on the outside, and this is what you're going to see, I would say, easily about 95% of the time, especially in Algebra 2, then the change that you're going to see is going to be a reflection across the x-axis. So this is the one that you're going to see most common. Now, as far as absolute value is concerned, these two are pretty rare. I mean, you might see them every once in a while, but basically what happens is with the absolute value on 7, when it's on the inside, all your x values end up being positive. So whether you have a positive or negative x value, they're going to have the same coordinates as a positive x. So all values on the right side of the y-axis reflect and replace the points on the left side of the y-axis. When the absolute value is on the outside, you're changing all of your y values. So what happens is any points that are below the x-axis will reflect across the x-axis on top, and so all your points will now be above the x-axis. And there's your reflections.